Okay, hello all, and thank you for joining us today. Welcome to the workshop entitled Writing an Abstract. My name is Shakita Allen, and I'm a communication specialist here in the Learning Commons.
And my name is Greg Schaberg, and I'm also a communication specialist in the Learning Commons.
In this workshop, we will discuss what an abstract is, what should be included in the abstract, and how to submit your abstract online. So without any further ado, let's get started.
Okay. So let's start by focusing on what an abstract is. I'm sure that most of you have encountered abstracts in your academic career, but I'm guessing that you probably haven't written that many. So let's take a look at not only what an abstract is, but what elements it should contain and in what order. So first of all, an abstract summarizes the major aspects of your research. Your paper, the creative work that you're describing, especially if you're entering for visual arts, it's going to hit the highlights and not focus on the details. Every abstract that you encounter contains most of these elements that I'm about to describe in the order that I described them. The overall purpose or overarching theme of the study is going to be something that you want to convey to your reader. What did you research and why did you research it? You're going to want to get that out there. You're going to want to present your hypothesis if it's a scientific study, or your thesis if it's a paper that you are presenting. The next thing that you're going to focus on is the design of the study. Like, how did you go about doing the research? That will be the next element of the abstract. You'll describe how you set up your study or how you what the parameters were for the research that you did for your paper. After that, you're going to let your reader know the results. You're going to talk about the major findings or trends found as a result of your analysis or discussion of the final product of creative work. So in this part of the abstract, you're going to answer the question, what did you find out? And finally, you're going to provide a brief summary of your thoughts moving forward. What might you research next? What still needs to be focused on? What questions were raised by your research that might need further research? This would all be found in the last couple of sentences of your abstract. Now, not always will you see this last part, the brief summary of the researcher's interpretations. But in most abstracts, you will see this at the end. The abstract for the symposium can only be 150 words or fewer. That's it. So if you need to cut any of the abstract, that section is probably the one we would recommend.
Wonderful. Any questions so far about the information that we just presented? Okay, so now we have a question for you. Based on the information just presented, which of the following is not an essential element in an abstract? And you can either unmute yourself and say A, B, C, or D, or you can put the answer in the chat. Very good. Yes, you said review of literature. You are correct. The only required elements that are needed in the abstract are the purpose, the methodology or the procedures, and the results. Good job.
Great. Like anything, there are do's and don'ts to writing an abstract. So the first thing we're going to focus on are the do's. What a good abstract should have. Now, a good abstract should allow you to elaborate upon each major aspect of your topic or your research. By this, we mean you're not going to want all the details in the abstract. You're just going to want to hit the highlights. It's a summary. So don't provide too much information. You want to provide enough to give the reader an idea of what's going on, but you don't want to pretty much present everything in that 150 words or fewer. So it should allow you to elaborate upon each major aspect during your presentation. It also should help the readers decide whether they want to learn more about your investigation or creation. So in our case here, we're talking about submitting your abstract to the selection committee for the symposium. So you want these readers who come from different disciplines to determine whether or not they want to learn more about your investigation. So you want to entice them. Let's keep that in mind. And you also want to include enough key information to make the abstract useful to someone in the field who might want to examine your work. Perhaps someone is following your line of research, they're in your area of expertise, and they would like to read your study in more detail. This is the way to get their attention. You want to tell them in the abstract enough so that they know that the information in your study will be useful to their study. In the end, you want to ask yourself, if my abstract were the only part of my work I could access, would I be happy with the amount of information presented there? And you're saying to me, well, Greg, there's only 150 words. There's only so much I can do. And that's true. But make sure that every one of those 150 words counts.
A good abstract should also be easily understood by your audience. You want to use active voice by using action verbs for direct and clear sentences. Active voice can help you prevent your abstract from becoming too complicated or wordy. And also be sure to create complete sentences throughout your abstract for concise meaning. And this will help present your point quickly and easily. So remember, you want to also be sure that you get to your point quickly and easily so that your audience can understand your abstract more clearly.
Okay, now let's go to the don'ts. There are some things that you should avoid when writing an abstract. Now, a good abstract should not provide lengthy background information. Again, you only have so much room, so you're really not going to be tempted in this case to put in too much background information. But you don't want to provide too much background information. You can do that during your presentation. If you're doing a poster session, you might have a section of your poster that highlights background information. That's the place for it. Don't refer to it in your abstract, not in a lengthy fashion. You might talk about what the studies are showing, but not at length discuss everything that's been done. A good abstract should also not provide references to other literature. You don't want to be listing a bunch of studies that have been done. It may look impressive, but that's you're going to use valuable space, and you might lose your reader in the process. So instead, say things like current research shows that, or studies have indicated, and focus on the trends. Focus on the current trends and the current research that's out there. What are they finding? What direction is the field headed in at this point? Be a little bit more general. Then when you get to your poster presentation, to your oral presentation, you can be a little bit more specific.
Your abstract should also be free of any grammatical errors. Proofread and edit the abstract to eliminate punctuation errors or sentence construction errors, such as run-on sentences, fragments, and/or comma splices. Also, avoid including any abbreviations or jargon or specific language to the field that may be confusing or difficult for your reader to understand. And finally, do not include any sort of images, illustrations, tables or graphs or any reference or mention to them.
Yes, remember that your audience is from across the curriculum here, so be careful to keep that in mind as you're writing your abstract. So we've talked about some do's and don'ts. Of these 4 things, a good abstract should do which? Again, you can say in the chat, or you can unmute and mute yourself and let us know. Is it provide references to other literature, include key information to make the abstract useful to someone who may want to examine your work, include images, illustrations, or tables, or allow you to elaborate upon each major aspect of the paper? What should a good abstract do?
Very good. Yes, we have B in the chat. It should include only enough key information that make the abstract useful to someone who may want to examine your work. And D, very good. Allow you to elaborate upon each major aspect of the paper.
Excellent. Any questions about what we've discussed up to this point? Anything at all? Okay.
All right, good. After you have completed your abstract and you are ready to apply, you will go to the Undergraduate Research Symposium website we have here listed below, and it's also in the chat. And you can just copy and paste that link and go to that link. Another way is to go to tcc.fl.edu, and in the search box on the page, type in undergraduate research and enter. A list of links will appear, and you want to click on the first link, which is the same link inserted here in the PowerPoint. Once there, click on how to participate, and then scroll down to the bottom of the page link, and you will see the submit your abstract today information form to get started.
Okay, so once you get to the form, there are 4 parts. You'll see presenter information, faculty sponsor information, submit work, additional needs and requests. Skid and I are going to go over a few or each page and a few of the things on each page so that you have the information you need when you sit down to fill out the form. So the first part is presenter information. And this is pretty straightforward. You're going to want to put your name, any preferred pronouns. You're going to want to have your TCC ID number. That is usually a letter followed by a series of numbers. If you don't have it handy or you don't know it, you can find it on Workday. You also want to provide some contact information so that the committee members can get in touch with you in case any changes are made or shifts in schedule occur or requirements have changed. You want to give information that will allow the committee members to get in touch with you. Don't provide your parents' information, best friend, girlfriend, boyfriend. Provide your contact information so that they can get in touch with you as quickly as possible. 2020 was a really good example of why it's important. We had accepted a lot of people to participate in the symposium, and the symposium was set for the same time, end of March. And we were headed towards spring break. And we had discussed taking an extra week beyond spring break or 2 off, but no one was really sure what was going to happen after that. We ended up totally canceling the symposium, and everybody had to be contacted. So make sure that we have contact information that is current and accurate. So give us your TCC email address. Don't provide Yahoo or your Hotmail address or Gmail. Provide your TCC email. That would be the mymail.tcc.fl.edu address. Provide your phone number, current that someone can get in touch with you, and your current address, somewhere that you can receive information. If we send you a packet, you don't want it to go to Miami when you're in Tallahassee. So keep that in mind. Finally, if you have a secondary presenter, someone who's going to present with you, here is the place to list them. At the very bottom, you will put their first name, last name, and their TCC email address. That is presenter information. Once you're done with that, you filled out this portion of the form, select continue, and you go to the next section.
Great. And for the next fields, you want to fill out the faculty sponsor information by typing in your faculty advisor's name. Be sure that you have spoken to your faculty advisor to inform them that you are submitting your work, because they will need to be aware of your submission once they receive the email information. Next, fill out the faculty sponsor division name. If you don't know this information, you can always ask your faculty advisor. And then finally, fill in the advisor's TCC email address, and you want to click continue.
That brings you to the meat of the form. This is the part that you've been waiting for, the part where you submit your abstract. At the beginning of this form, you will put the presentation type. In this case, we chose a visual arts presentation for the example, but it might be poster, it might be oral presentation, 3-minute thesis. Select the presentation that you plan to do. And with some of the presentation types, it'll open a new category. In this case, it'll ask you for which category the visual arts presentation falls. In this case, we picked mixed media. There are others, but not every. If you pick poster, for example, as your presentation type, there will not be a secondary box that you have to fill out. Then you want to pick the presentation topic area. Which division of the college does your topic fit into? If it's English, it'll go to communications and humanities. If it's science focused, it'll go to science and math. If it's political science or psychology, it'll go to social science division. The divisions are listed in a drop-down menu. Here, you can select the one that's appropriate. And if you have any questions, you can always ask your faculty sponsor for guidance, or you can come to the Learning Commons and ask us. We will be able to guide you as well. Finally, you give your presentation title, and you copy and paste your abstract into the text box below. So notice how they want you to state these things we talked about earlier in the presentation. What your study investigated, why it's important, and how did you do your project? How did you set up your research? So you're going to want those elements in the abstract. Make sure you attend to those things, answer those questions, because they will base their decision on this. The committee realizes that you might not have finished your research at this point, that you might still be mid-study. That's okay. It's not asking you for your results if you notice yet. But if you have some results and you want to add them, that would be fine too. Oops, I was just scrolling down, but I can't scroll down because I'm in a presentation. So then you plop in the abstract, and you'll notice at the bottom here, it'll say maximum of 150 currently entered, and it'll give you the number. We put in an abstract that was exactly 150 words, and it allows us to continue at that point. If you were to put in something that were, say, 185 words, it would not allow you to move forward. So you'd have to do a little editing. If you need some help editing your abstract, please come to the Learning Commons. We'll be happy to help. Now, once you get that in and everything's set, click continue, and you go to the last page of the form.
And finally, you want to fill out any additional needs or request fields. You may need a table for additional handouts or resources, so click that box if needed. Click the others field and the type for any other specific needs that you need. And in the text box provided, if you need any special resource or accommodations needs, be sure to explain what those needs are and click submit.
This form will then go to the Undergraduate Symposium Committee, and they will review it and get back in touch with you. So what we've done is we have an example that the undergraduate symposium committee has on their website as an acceptable abstract. This is an abstract that was submitted in the past, and it was one that was accepted, just to kind of show you how you might organize what you're submitting. So here we have a paper that comes from political science. It examines the Family and Medical Leave Act of 1993, and it was specifically focused on the legislation of that act. It traced the history of it from start to finish, and it analyzed the voting behavior in the House and Senate by looking at party, region, Northern and Southern Democrats, and finally perceived ideology. Based on those parameters, the researcher found that congressmen had a propensity to vote based on recognized ideology, and also that party played a significant role in voting behavior. But whether people were from the North and the South didn't seem to matter as much. What mattered was that what party they belonged to and what ideology they held. So that gives you enough information in a nutshell to know exactly what this person's paper is about, what research they did, how they did it, and what conclusions they came to. This abstract is fewer than 150 words, so it would fit fine. It would meet the requirements as directed. Any questions about this abstract or the form?
We have a
Okay.
question in the chat. It says, how do I determine who my faculty advisor is?
That is it's actually your faculty sponsor, not an advisor. It's a faculty member who will sponsor you and guide you through the process. It's a very good question. The faculty sponsor is someone you choose, and that individual, it could be your professor, it could be a professor that you work closely with in another area. It doesn't have to be someone necessarily who's in the field, that you are studying, but it has to be a faculty member here at TCC. So make sure, the one thing that we do need to stress is to make sure you contact the instructor first, ask if it's okay, if they're willing to be your faculty sponsor. If so, then you can put them in the form. The reason I say make sure you do that first is because when you submit that form, the committee will contact the person you put as your faculty advisor. We've had some students in the past who will just put in a faculty advisor thinking, well, I'll ask later. And, the faculty sponsor is surprised when contacted by the committee. You don't want that. So you can reach out to anyone. If you're in the honors program, it could be the director of the honors program. It could be a faculty member who's teaching a class that you really enjoy, someone you feel a rapport with, or that you have a good rapport with. So it's all up to you. That's an excellent question. It's a very good question.
Yes.
Any others?
Oh, you're welcome.
Okay, let's look at another example of an abstract.
Yeah, so following up on the discussion Greg just talked about with the last abstract, we have a different abstract here. This can fall under communications and humanities. And this abstract is also highlighted in parts. As you can see, the purpose of the abstract is highlighted in red. And this participant actually created a sculpture. And the purpose of the sculpture was to embody the fragility of the Florida ecosystem while raising awareness about the state's environment. And in the yellow, the highlighted yellow portion discusses the methodology or the procedures or the steps that this participant went through to create the sculpture. And then finally, we move on into the results, and the abstract provides what came out of what the viewer or the audience should get out of the sculpture and how it relates to the theme or the ongoing discussion of the topic. The viewer will see the natural elements encased in a semi-transparent coating, which will bring awareness of Florida's environment. At the same time, the contrast between the smooth epoxy finish and the rough unfinished patches will remind the viewer of the fragility of Florida's ecosystem. And what's different in this abstract is that this abstract actually has a conclusion statement or a review of the literature and how the sculpture is contributing to the ongoing discussion or the ongoing issue of raising awareness for environmental purposes. So this abstract is actually 150 words exactly. So this is how your abstract would look at 150 words. But this is just another example that your abstract may not be in the science field. It may be a communications or humanities abstract as well. And this is how you would go about creating one for that purpose. Oh, Greg, I think you're on mute.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
You'd think after like 2 years, I would figure that out. You will receive a copy of this PowerPoint in your TCC email, and it will contain these links and everything we've discussed. But if you would like to know more about writing an abstract, one of the sources that we have used is from University of Southern California Libraries. They have a LibGuide that talks about writing an abstract that is very helpful. And we have the citation here. You could look it up, go to the web address, take a look, and it might help you learn a little more as well.
And if you need any other assistance or help with creating your abstract, what to include in your abstract, you can definitely visit the Learning Commons, or you can email Greg Shaberg or myself at our respective email addresses. The Learning Commons is open Monday through Thursday, 7:30 to 7:30, and then Friday, 7:30 to 5. And we'd like to thank all of you for joining us today. And before we go, I'm going to ask if there are any questions.